5 powerful signs that someone close to you may secretly hate you. Not in fear, but to protect. Not every smile is a sign of friendship, and not every silence is peace. In lies, we are taught to look outward, to trust, to believe, to give others the benefit of the doubt, especially those close to us. Family, friends, colleagues, yet like still water that hides a dangerous current beneath. Sometimes the deepest betrayal comes cloaked in silence or in a smile. You may feel it but not name it. You may see it but not want to admit it. But the signs are there, subtle, persistent, unsettling. Shaolin wisdom teaches us not only how to defend against external enemies, but also how to recognize hidden ones, the ones who wear the robe of closeness but carry the dagger of resentment. This is not about creating suspicion. It is about awakening. This is not about hating them back. It is about protecting your peace. Because inner mastery is not only about meditation, it's also about observation. And sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who secretly wish you would fall. Let us learn the art of seeing clearly, feeling deeply, and moving wisely. 1. They diminish your wins, quietly or publicly. In the journey of self-mastery, one of the most delicate challenges we face is learning to discern the invisible threats that either support our growth or quietly sabotage it. And sometimes those threats are woven by the people we call friends, family, or trusted companions. One of the earliest signs that someone close to you secretly harbors resentment or hatred is this: they cannot truly celebrate your victories. When something good happens in your life, when you finally overcome a struggle, when you are recognized, promoted, or simply at peace, the reaction does not match the joy you feel. Instead of sincere congratulations, you hear hesitation. Instead of support, you hear subtle stings wrapped in humor. Instead of clapping hands, you feel folded arms. And the worst part is, sometimes it is so subtle, you begin to doubt yourself. They say things like, "Must be nice to get lucky," or "I didn't expect that from you," or "Well, just don't let it get to your head." And at first you might brush it off, thinking, maybe they're just joking, maybe I'm reading into it too much. But when it becomes a pattern, when every time you share a win, it's met with some form of critique, minimization, or indifference, it is no longer coincidence, it is a revelation. Shaolin wisdom teaches us to observe in stillness, to study the behavior of others without emotional entanglement, to recognize that a true friend magnifies your light, while a hidden enemy squints in discomfort when you shine. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you achieved something you were truly proud of, and the people closest to you made you feel even better about it? Or did they shift the subject, point out what you lacked, or turn it into a story about themselves? There is a quiet but powerful truth in human behavior. Those who feel secure in themselves are able to celebrate others, but those who are secretly drowning in comparison, envy, or bitterness cannot give what they do not possess. If they are not clapping for you, it is not because you don't deserve the applause. It is because your success highlights the parts of them they have not yet healed. In the Shaolin tradition, we learn to develop internal strength not only through breath and form, but through observation without reaction. When someone repeatedly diminishes your progress, it is not your role to convince them otherwise. You do not need to dim your light to comfort someone sitting in their own shadows. Instead, practice compassionate awareness. You do not have to cut ties immediately, but you must stop handing your joy to those who cannot hold it with clean hands. Protect your peace, protect your celebrations, and learn to notice those who are only comfortable when you are struggling, small or in need. Because in this world, there are those who lift and those who lean. There are those who water your spirit and those who poke holes in your cup. And sometimes those people wear the face of a friend but carry the heart of a hidden critic. It is better to walk alone in truth than to dance in circles with someone who secretly wants you to trip. So let your joy be sacred. Let your growth be private if needed. And remember, the energy someone gives you when you rise tells you everything about how they truly feel about your existence. Let us now look deeper beyond reactions into the silent games of comparison. Because not every enemy attacks you loudly. Some try to outpace you quietly behind the mask of false encouragement. And that is where we begin to understand the second sign. 2. They compete with you in disguise. The path of the Shaolin monk is not one of noise, but of clarity. We are taught to see through illusion, not only the illusions around us, but the illusions within relationships. One of the subtlest poisons in close companionship is disguised competition. It does not announce itself like open rivalry. It does not wear the armor of a known enemy. Instead, it hides beneath smiles, encouragement, and the performance of friendship. Yet, in reality, what you are experiencing is not mutual growth, but covert comparison. These individuals don't compete to improve themselves, they compete to stay above you, to feel less threatened by you, to maintain an invisible hierarchy that validates their own insecurities. This is how it often appears. You begin a new habit, fitness, journaling, meditation, learning a new skill, and suddenly they adopt the same behavior. Not in the spirit of shared progress, but with the unspoken goal of outshining you. If you've started waking early, they'll casually mention they've always done that. If you earn recognition at work, they'll share their own wins soon after, ensuring the spotlight never lingers too long on your success. If you speak of your spiritual growth, they may respond with a subtle smirk or offer advice as if you are a student in need of their guidance. Pay attention to the timing and tone. Jealousy rarely speaks with a raised voice. It often speaks through mirroring, dismissing, or competing. Shaolin teachings remind us that true strength is silent. The master does not compare himself to the student, nor does he react to the student's rise. Why? Because he is grounded in his center. He knows that someone else's past does not threaten his own. But when someone you trust begins to shadow your every move, not as support but as strategy, understand that you are not growing together, you are being watched, measured, and silently challenged. This is not inspiration, this is hidden rivalry, and it is corrosive. Sometimes they will mask their competition with flattery. You're doing great. I'm thinking of doing the same, just better. Or with sarcasm. Look at you, Mr. Enlightened. They will call it friendly banter. But your intuition will feel the edge. Because deep inside, you will know that their engagement is not rooted in love. It is rooted in comparison. This kind of relationship slowly drains your energy. You begin to second guess your own progress. You start to withhold your goals, your dreams, your process, because you fear it will either be copied or criticized. That fear is not irrational. It is your spirit detecting dissonance. In Shaolin culture, we train not just with our bodies, but with our presence. We become aware of the energetic currency exchanged in every interaction. When someone secretly competes with you, they are constantly measuring, comparing, judging. Not to learn, but to outdo. And that mindset cannot coexist with genuine connection. A true friend does not speed up simply because you begin walking. They cheer, they support. They sometimes follow and sometimes lead, but never compete in silence. Beware of those who only show up when you are doing something new. Be fed is giving them a new reason to reassert themselves. Beware of those who subtly shift the conversation back to themselves every time you speak. These are not coincidences, they are patterns. And Shaolin wisdom teaches us, patterns are the footprints of hidden intentions. Recognize them, not with anger, but with clarity. Because once you see it, you must make a choice. Either continue to play a game you didn't agree to, or step out of the ring entirely. Growth must be protected, not with resistance, but with discernment. You are not obligated to compete in a race you didn't sign up for. The one who cannot celebrate you may secretly be trying to beat you. And that is not a path of peace. It is a slow war masked as friendship. And yet, there are deeper signs still. Some people may not compete, but they keep a quiet ledger. They track your every mistake, not to help you rise, but to remind you of your place. Let us now walk into that next level of unseen resentment. The scorekeepers. Those who help but never forget. 3. They keep score and withhold support when you need it most. In the quiet world of the Shaolin Temple, one learns to recognize a powerful truth. Presence is the purest form of loyalty. When a brother is in pain, he is not left behind. When one falters, the others do not count the times he's fallen, they lift him without hesitation. There is no score, no tally, no conditional kindness. And yet, outside the temple, in the world of shifting masks and concealed intentions, some people disguise themselves as your supporter until you truly need support. And then they are nowhere to be found. Or worse, they arrive but not to help. They come to remind you of everything you've ever owed them. These are the people who hold a hidden notebook in their minds, a mental ledger of every favor, every gift, every moment of effort they gave you. And they use it not to build connection, but to maintain control. Their generosity is not from the heart, it is a transaction. And when the moment comes that your world begins to shake, when you experience loss, failure, confusion or doubt, they become strangely distant or painfully present in all the wrong ways. Some vanish using your pain as an excuse to withdraw. Others appear only to say, "Remember what I did for you," or "You wouldn't even be here if it weren't for me." Shaolin teachings are rooted in selfless action. True giving expects no return. When we help someone, we let go of the act the moment it is done. But those who secretly resent you never let go. They keep score to feed their ego, not to nurture your relationship. And when you stumble, they view it as a window of opportunity. Because pain is the great revealer. It reveals who is truly with you and who was only with your strength, your usefulness. Cause perhaps you felt it before. The sting of needing emotional presence, not solutions, not advice, just a quiet hand on your back, and realizing the one you expected to show up is silent. Perhaps you've been vulnerable, only to be met with judgment or coldness. These are not signs of bad luck, they are signs of misalignment. When someone only shows up for the good times, or when there is laced with reminders of your past shortcomings, you must ask yourself, is this relationship built on love or leverage? There are people in our lives who do not openly hate us, but who quietly celebrate when we fall, because it gives them the emotional upper hand. There are people who thrive on being needed, not because they care, but because it makes them feel valuable. So when you rise, they feel unimportant. When you heal, they feel irrelevant. And when you no longer depend on them, they become bitter. This kind of resentment is rarely loud. It is subtle, but it shows in the way they withdraw when you are low, or in the sharpness of their voice when you try to speak of your growth. Shaolin wisdom teaches that awareness is the first form of protection. If someone makes you feel guilty for being in pain, they were never truly with you. If someone reminds you of your past mistakes while you're trying to rebuild, they are not invested in your future. They are addicted to your weakness. And if someone uses your lowest moments as currency to control or belittle you, that is not friendship. That is manipulation, wearing the mask of care. We must learn to protect our vulnerable moments with the same vigilance we protect our peace. Your lowest point is not a gift to be placed in the hands of someone who treats it like a bargaining chip. Be discerning with whom you open your wounds to. A true ally does not see your vulnerability as a weakness, they see it as sacred. They stand with you not to gain leverage, but to simply stand with you. No expectations, no scoreboard, just presence. And as we begin to see through the veil of false support, we come closer to understanding a deeper and more disturbing pattern. What happens when the very things you've shared in confidence are later used against you? That is where we must now go next, into the realm of betrayal masked as honesty, into the subtle cruelty of someone who knows your fears and speaks them aloud, not to heal but to hurt, for they use your vulnerabilities against you. Subtly. In the sacred halls of the Shaolin Temple, we are reminded again and again, what is shared in trust must be guarded with honor. Vulnerability in our way of life is not weakness. It is truth without armor. It is the act of placing your heart exposed and unguarded in the hands of someone you believe will cradle it gently. And what happens when that person closes their fist instead? What happens when someone close to you, someone you've laughed with, cried with, walked beside, begins to take what you've shared in confidence and turns it into quiet ammunition? This is the fourth sign. It often hides in subtlety. At first, they appear to be attentive, even compassionate. They listen as you open up about your childhood wounds, your insecurities, your fears, your past mistakes. They nod, comfort, and reassure. But later, when there's tension, when there's an argument, when the energy shifts, they strike, not with volume, but with precision. They say things like, "You always overreact just like you told me you used to," or "No wonder you struggle with relationships, considering what you went through." Their words may sound factual, even logical, but beneath them lies a sharp edge. They are not using what you said to understand you. Shaolin philosophy teaches us to observe energy, not just language. The same sentence can heal or harm, depending on the intention behind it. When someone you trusted begins to weaponize your past or your pain, they are no longer a safe presence in your life. And the most painful part is this: it doesn't always come in the form of anger or insult. Sometimes it comes as sarcasm, a joke among friends that touches the very thing you confided in them. Don't get him started on that. Remember how sensitive he is. They laugh, others laugh, and you sit in silence, betrayed. Not loudly, not violently, but quietly and intimately. Because they didn't attack a behavior, they attacked your truth. There is a kind of hatred that wears the face of familiarity. It does not seek to destroy you, but to keep you contained. It wants to remind you again and again of the most fragile parts of yourself, not so you can heal, but so you never forget who you once were. This kind of person will smile in your presence and then leave you questioning your strengths, your growth, your very essence. And it always begins with trust that is gradually turned against you. In the Shaolin way, we are not taught to close ourselves off from the world. We are taught to be open but precise. Like the sword that is sheathed until needed, we learn when to share and when to guard, because not every listener is a keeper of truth. Some are collectors of weakness. They observe not to understand, but to store. And in moments of power imbalance, they reveal their collection piece by piece, word by word. These are not moments of honesty. They are acts of psychological warfare. You may notice how you begin to censor yourself around them. You withhold your truth, not because you've lost trust in yourself, but because you've learned They cannot be trusted with your truth. That instinct is not paranoia, it is wisdom, it is your inner monk speaking. In our training, we speak often of emotional containers. Those few rare individuals who can hold your pain without judgment, without retelling. They are the ones you must seek. But the others, the ones who twist your truth for leverage or humor, they must be met with distance. Not vengeance. Let us be clear. Someone who truly loves you will never use your softness as a weapon. They will never speak your pain aloud unless it is to protect you, to honor you, or to heal with you. They will never echo your confessions with scorn, nor turn your past into public entertainment. That kind of behavior is not a misunderstanding. It is a red flag, a silent alarm that your trust has been placed in the wrong vessel. And so we begin to reclaim what is sacred. Our wounds, our growth, our stories. Not everyone deserves access to them. Shaolin wisdom does not call for total withdrawal, but for discernment. You do not need to shut the door on the world, but you must install a lock and hand out the key with care. Because what you give in vulnerability is a gift, and not all hearts know how to receive without harming. And now we arrive at the final and perhaps most painful sign of all. It is not what they say, it is what they resist. It is not how they treat your weakness, but how they respond to your strength. Because nothing threatens the secretly resentful more than your evolution. Let us step into this final gate of awareness. What it means when someone close to you does not want to see you grow. 5. They don't want you to evolve. In the silent teachings of Shaolin, we often reflect on the impermanence of all things. Seasons change, rivers shift their course, the body grows old, and the mind, when nurtured, awakens. But perhaps the most uncomfortable truth of this path is that as you evolve, your relationships must either grow with you or fall away. And there are some hidden in the folds of closeness who do not openly resist your evolution, but who quietly begin to retreat, to sabotage, or to resent the very transformation that is making you whole. This is the 5th and final sign, and it often arrives without warning. At first, you begin to make changes. You start healing, forgiving, creating space within yourself for peace and clarity. Maybe you start waking earlier, caring more about your body, meditating, setting boundaries, or simply removing yourself from toxic conversations. And suddenly, the energy shifts. The same person who once cheered for you now feels irritated. They mock your new habits. They say you are too serious now. They miss the old you, the version of you that tolerated disrespect, kept the peace at your own expense, over-explained, overgave, and undervalued yourself. But make no mistake, the version they miss is not the real you. Shaolin philosophy teaches us that growth is not a straight path upward, it is a spiral. And as we ascend, we often revisit the same people, same spaces, same habits, but from a higher level of awareness. And from that vantage point, you begin to see it clearly. Some people in your life were only aligned with your pain, not your healing. They were emotionally attached to your self-doubt because it kept you reachable. They were at ease with your self-neglect because it ensured their needs always came first. Your growth disrupts the dynamic. Your evolution exposes the imbalance. And when you no longer play the same role, they no longer recognize you as theirs. This resistance doesn't always look like open conflict. Often it appears as subtle distancing. Fewer calls, less eye contact, sarcastic remarks, passive-aggressive behavior, or even disguised concern. You're changing too fast. Are you sure this is who you really are? What they are really saying is, I'm no longer able to control you, and that scares me. But growth is not meant to be palatable to everyone around you. It is meant to be liberating for you. And liberation is a quiet rebellion against every identity the world once forced you to wear. Some relationships survive your evolution. They adapt, they expand. These are the rare and sacred ones. But others begin to wither. Not because the dynamic was never based on authenticity, it was based on dependency. And once you begin to rise from within, they can no longer reach you in the same way. In Shaolin, we are taught not to grieve this distance, but to accept it as a sign of alignment. When you grow, you outgrow. You may feel guilt, that is natural. You may feel alone, that is expected. The path of mastery is rarely crowded. But remember this, your peace is not a betrayal. Your healing is not arrogance. Your boundaries are not cruelty. Those who love you will learn to love your growth. Those who secretly resented you will show their discomfort. That discomfort is not your burden to carry. It is a reflection of their unwillingness to grow beside you. Do not dim your light just to stay connected to people who are comfortable in the dark. Do not apologize for becoming more centered, more clear, more calm. The goal is not to please everyone. It is to be so aligned with yourself that you no longer need external validation. In Shaolin, we call this the still lake, where your reflection is no longer shaped by the ripples others create. You see yourself as you are, and that becomes enough. And so if someone close to you begins to criticize your healing, question your transformation, or pull away from your peace, let that be the confirmation you need. You are on the right path, and the path may not always be shared. Some must fall away, not in anger but in grace. Because not everyone is meant to walk with you into your highest self. Some were only chapters. Your story is still being written. And as we bring these 5 signs into our awareness, the question is no longer, why do they secretly hate me? But rather, why have I tolerated such energy in my sacred space for so long? Now we arrive at the final breath of this teaching. Not in fear, not in resentment, but in deep reflection, in acceptance, in clarity. Because wisdom is not just knowing who others are, it is remembering who you are, even when others try to forget. In the quiet spaces between our breath and awareness, we often discover truths we were not ready to see before. What we've explored today is not meant to create fear, but to cultivate clarity. Not every person who walks beside you walks with you. Some carry silent judgments, others hide unresolved pain, and a few without even realizing it. Shaolin wisdom does not teach us to judge others with harshness, but to observe with serenity. When we understand these subtle signs that someone close to us secretly harbors ill will, we are not meant to fight, argue, or force transformation. We are meant to return inward, to protect our energy, to honor our evolution, and to walk forward with grace, knowing that some people are part of our path, but not meant to journey with us to its side. As we reflect on these 5 signs, the diminishing of your joy, the mass competition, the emotional scorekeeping, the betrayal of vulnerability, and the discomfort with your growth, let us not respond with bitterness. Let us respond with wisdom, with space, with presence. The Shaolin path is not about the removal of enemies. It is about the cultivation of inner peace so deep that enemies can no longer disturb it. And so, I leave you with this gentle challenge, my friend. Start today, not by moving, but by sitting still and seeing what remains. In stillness, may you see clearly. In clarity, may you choose wisely. And in your choices, may you honor the sacred space that is your life. Thank you for sharing this time and reflection with me. Walk gently. Walk in peace.